رمضان أقبل بعد طول غيابي ففرحت فيه مهنئا أحبابي خير الشهور به النفوس تعلقت واستسلمت للخالق الوهاب.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. And welcome to episode 8 or para 8 of Ramadan Recital, reminders of our Ramadan series on syncing with the Quran, and its 8th para. We know the objectives, so I'm not going to continuously remind you of the objectives. We always realize, or my fault really, it's not your fault, but we always end up losing time. We do spend some considerable amount of time in the first sort of 10-15 sides, and then we somewhat can only pick up on bits as we progress. This is just the way things are. Obviously it's a para, the task in front of me is huge. To be able to even summarize how I do it is, to be honest, the miraculous nature of the Quran for me to be able to do that. Anyway, without further ado, we started Surah Al-An'am as well whilst we were in the 7th para, so that will finish today inshallah, and we'll also get an idea as to why Surah Al-An'am is called Surah Al-An'am. And because obviously the 7th surah also starts in the 8th para, which is Surah Al-A'raf, which is the heights. We will also be able to discuss that before we reach the end and get to the 9th para, which is now on the verge of a third of Ramadan virtually behind us. Anyway, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ولو أننا نزلنا إليهم الملائكة وكلمهم الموتى وحشرنا عليهم كل شيء قبلا ما كانوا ليؤمنوا إلا أن يشاء الله ولكن أكثرهم يجهلون. And if we were to send down upon them the angels, and the dead were to speak to them, and if we were to gather everything that they ask for, whatever, or they want in front of them, kubulum, directly in front of them, ma kanu li yu'minu, then they will not believe except if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills. However, the majority of the people are unaware of this. You've seen a constant theme throughout the 8 paras that we've had the 7 paras that we've had opportunity to discuss, and now we start moving into the 8th para. We've had this constantly being told that we shouldn't be looking and thinking through materialistic and what our eyes tell us. Our iman is yu'minuna bil ghaib, as we said in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, is to believe in the unseen. And to believe in the unseen is to believe it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is the all-powerful, and He is the all-knowing, and He does as He wills. Wa taqdeer, and predestination, is something that He has power over, and He destines matters for us. So it's not about when people ask, oh, if this happens then I would believe, or if that happened then I would believe, or if this takes place then I would believe, or I will become more practicing if this was to take place, or if that was to take place, or if I saw this, or if I experienced this. No, please dismiss that from your minds. Nothing to do with that whatsoever. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that even if we were to send angels down to them, and they would see angels with their very eyes, even if the dead go out from the grave and spoke to them, and even if we gathered every single miracle or every single thing that they've requested from you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'm bringing it into this day and age, anything that we asked for, then they will still not believe except those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, and those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills would have believed even if they didn't see these things. So it's not that we're unsure. It's not that we have doubt or anything. It's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given us hidayah. He has not given us the tawfiq, as the word is mentioned. The capacity, the capability to be able to do something. It's not something that we choose not to do. It's a capacity, capability, a divine attributed, a divinely gifted capability to be able to take on a particular task. So it's not our choosing. So once we reach that realization that, hold on a second here, that this is not actually down to me, it's not actually down to my efforts, it's not because this hasn't happened, that's why I don't believe, or that hasn't happened, or whatever. It's because I because of my own arrogance, because of my own oppression, because of the type of person that I am, I have been abandoned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abandoned in the sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not giving me hidayah. With that in mind, the person should be somewhat frightened, should be have fear, should be concerned. Why am I being abandoned like this? As a result, this person turns their life, focuses on what they need to focus on, and turns to Allah. How do you turn to Allah? Ta'ibun, repent. Person repents, realizes that I've been abandoned for a reason. There is something in my heart, there is something in my behavior, there is something in my characteristics which is bad. I'm bad to the core. I need to change that, and if I change that, and there is a guarantee, when Allah has mentioned throughout, again a common thread throughout the 7 paras that we've covered, is that once we repent, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept us, and then guidance and everything comes. Hudal lil muttaqeen, again in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, a guidance for those people of taqwa. You can see that within those first few lines, which finishes on humul muflihun, or first few ayats, so much information is condensed within it, and it's so difficult to then really expound upon all the different information that we can draw from there. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ عَدُوًّا شَيَاطِينَ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ يُوحِي بَعْضُهُمْ إِلَى بَعْضٍ زُخْرُفَ الْقَوْلِ غُرُورًا. And we have made for every Nabi an enemy, and the enemies are the shayateen, and these are shayateen of the ins, humans, and the shayateen of the jinn. So it's not just that these are individuals, just shayateen of the jinn, as we have mentioned, but they are also the shayateen of the ins, of the humans. And we have a nice diagram that's made, and that diagram which is made is that we have the angels on one side, and we have the shayateen on another, and then we have the jinn and the humans, who then have a choice. Okay, they have a choice whether they choose to follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's path, or they actually stand as an enemy to Allah and they try to stop other people. And then we have those which then can be from the ins or from the jinn, and these are the evildoers in the middle. وَلَوْ شَاءَ رَبُّكَ مَا فَعَلُوهُ فَذَرْهُمْ بِوَمَا يَفْتُرُونَ. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so willed, then they would not be able to do what they do, so leave them. Again, the point is being made is everything is happening because of the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our connection has to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا. And is the word of your Rabb is complete as truth and as just. لا مبدل لكلماته. And there is no change whatsoever in his statements. وهو السميع العليم. And he is all hearing and all knowing. وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ يُضِلُّوكَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ إِنْ يَتَّبِعُونَ إِلَّا الظَّنَّ وَإِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يَخْرُصُونَ. And if you were to follow the majority of those people on the earth, then they will deviate you from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they do not follow except conjecture, except whatever their minds concoct. They're not following proofs, they're not following evidence, they're not following guidance. وَإِنْهُمْ إِلَّا يَخْرُصُونَ. They are only but just guessing. And we see this when we start to follow the average crowd. Then sometimes wearing the trousers high up, tying them near the chest is the in thing. Next, wearing the trousers all the way below is the in thing. For women, sometimes wearing long sleeves, sometimes wearing short sleeves, sometimes wearing the hair like this, then wearing hair like that. Continuously the lifestyles are changing. Sometimes it's good to be like this, sometimes it's cool to be like this, sometimes it's in to be like this, and sometimes it's in to be like that. Sometimes keeping the beard is stylish, sometimes not keeping the beard is stylish. So people are just guessing, and the others are just blindly following the cloud. Not the cloud. They might be blindly following a cloud as well, but they're blindly following the crowd. Okay? And if the crowd were upon haqq, if the crowd were leading them to the promised land or something good, then you could understand that following. So following in itself is not a bad thing. We follow the deen. But the people who are being followed here have no idea whatsoever themselves. They just made some word up. or made some act up, or made some practice up, and then thought, let's do this, and then before they knew it, people started copying them. And now with the YouTube sensations, and with the Vines, and Snapchat and this chat and whatever else that goes on, somebody does something on there. We have this bottle flicking nonsense. So one person decided to flick a bottle, so now every man and his donkey wants to flick a bottle. For what? Because I saw it on YouTube. Well, okay. So if you saw somebody running into a brick wall on YouTube, would you do that as well? Please. So, what it's just guesswork, people just doing things, and it's just shaitan, it's tricks just keeping us preoccupied. This is the fad, that's a fad, and we're just losing our way. Inna rabbaka huwa a'lamu man yadillu an sabili. Because Allah knows well who, He knows very well, He's more knowledgeable than anybody as to who has deviated from His path. Wa huwa a'lamu bil muhtadin, and He's also knowledgeable upon those who are guided. فَكُلُوا مِمَّا ذُكِرَ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ فَكُلُوا مِمَّا ذُكِرَ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ إِن كُنْتُمْ بِآيَاتِهِ مُؤْمِنِينَ. And eat from that which Allah's name has been mentioned over, if you are, with respect to His verses, true believers. So this is about eating something which has been slaughtered in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَمَا لَكُمْ أَلَّا تَأْكُلُوا مِمَّا ذُكِرَ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وَقَدْ فَصَّلَ لَكُمْ مَا حَرَّمَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِلَّا مَا اضْطُرِرْتُمْ إِلَيْهِ. And what's wrong with you that you eat something which has had Allah's name, that you should not eat rather, which has had Allah's name mentioned upon it, when indeed He has been clarified for you that which He has made haram upon you, except if you are compelled or you are constrained, you have no choice, there is no other food available. So that shows again the context element. A person asks you a question and say, is it permissible for me to have a hamburger? Obviously the first answer you expect to hear is, no, it's haram. But is it? Okay, what if you're in a situation where there is no other food available whatsoever? You're locked in a room. Don't ask me, I'm going to give you one of those strange hypothetical scenarios where you're on an island all on your own, so hear it out. You're locked in a room, there's nothing available, no food whatsoever. And the only thing you can eat is a leftover burger, about half eaten, a hamburger. That's all that's left. Obviously you could just eat the bread. So you just eat the bread. Then you could just eat the salad. But then there's a big chunk of ham left. And you're absolutely close to dying. You're starving. You're really hungry. You've got no choice. So sorry about this food thing. I've got an addiction to food, haven't I? I'm addicted to it. And then you end up eating that ham. Is it halal for you? Of course it is. Not only is it halal for you, it's actually necessary upon you to eat that. It has become compulsory upon you to eat that. Reason being is, if you don't eat that, you will now die. And you have something there which has now become legal for you to consume, and you're choosing not to eat it, and you're, as a result, dying. So in most of the questions when we get an answer, it depends. So when someone says, should I use water to make wudu? You'd think the answer is yes. But what if this person has a skin irritation, and the doctors have warned him, let's just say, God forbid, he burnt his arms. And the doctor said to him that, look, you can't wash your arms, you can't let any water come near your arms. You just said to him, now that water is necessary. So the content, it depends. So most of the time, a scholar will answer the question is, it depends, or he's giving you the answer in a normal situation, in a normal context, if there is such a word as normal, in a standard average, let's use that word instead. وَذَرُوا زَاهِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَبَاطِنَهُ. And leave the apparent of the sin, and also leave the batin of the sin. What we fail to realize is we do focus on the external sins. Yes, okay, we do focus on the external sins. But what we don't do is focus on the internal sins. So when a person wants to do cosmetic surgery, when a person wants to pluck their eyebrows, or when a person wants to modify their teeth in some way, or when a person wants to reduce the size of their nose, or increase their cheekbones, or add more meat to their lips, whatever, then that is the zahir of the sin, because it's changing the creation of Allah. But what is the batin of the sin? The batin of the sin is vanity. It's where this person values how they look. So there is always a batin of a sin and a zahir of the sin. Stealing, taking something which belongs to somebody else, okay, is stealing, and that's the zahir of the sin. But what is the batin of the sin? The batin of the sin is greed. Is not showing contentment on where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has left you. So there is always a batin and a zahir of the sin. So you see some people who say, oh, well, don't judge me by the apparent, judge me by your heart, judge me by my heart rather. Well, first of all, nobody judges, but a person commits a sin, and they commit a sin. We can't sort of say, oh, well, that sin must be justified because they must have a good heart. It doesn't make sense. You commit a sin, then that's an example, and that's a manifestation of a person's heart. Okay? That's a manifestation. You can't have good thoughts and it manifests in a bad way. It just doesn't happen. You're having good thoughts and you punch someone in the nose. And say, oh, I only meant well with that. And you think, how could you have meant well with that? You just punched me in the nose, broke my nose for me. My 2 front teeth are falling out. What could you have meant by that? Oh, well, I had nothing but good for you in that. What the, this doesn't even add up. It's illogical. Yes, it's slightly different. When a person comes up from behind and pushes the person, and the person falls on the floor, and then he says, what did you do that for? He says, there's a bus, and it so happens that there was a bus or a car, and this person's life just got saved. But he will be able to see the effect of the batin immediately, not like 600 years later. He'd be able to see straight away that when he sort of dusts himself as he gets up, he'll see that when that car just gone past. So he won't need to ask this person, why did you push me? Because I just saw this car. So he'll know. So the batin becomes quite clear from the zahir. So when you're doing something zahiri and it's wrong, then don't think, oh, I must have had a good intention, or I think I know, because this is shaitan coming in between your heart and your action. Shaitan is obviously deceiving you, making you think that your amal are good. That's all he's doing. It's a deception. Because a good heart will produce good results. There will be good manifestation. It can't produce bad results. It will always be good, even if in the short term it looks bad. For instance, when the dentist pulls your tooth out, that's bad. You don't like what the dentist is doing. It hurts. It's painful. But what happens then is that paining tooth, which has been keeping you awake for months and weeks, has now stopped. So yes, short-term pain, you did hurt a little bit, but at least long-term you feel okay. We go to the gym, we put ourselves through pain, okay? And we might think, why am I doing this for? But then we have a better, healthier life, and also we have a better life as we age. So you can see, so we see the good of a good intention, even if the zahir is problematic. We see the good. So we see, for example, a man walking into a pub. So we think, oh, goodness me, where's this brother going? He should know better. But then we see him dragging his brother out, who's drunk. So we see, so his batin intention was to drag his brother out of this pub. But on the face of it, it looked like a sin because he was walking into a pub. But we were quick to see the zahir of his batin because we saw him dragging his brother out. So we can say, oh, alhamdulillah, this brother actually went into the pub only to drag his brother away, who's obviously had too much to drink and is committing a sin. So please don't be confused by thinking that I had a good intention and something bad comes out. That means your intention is not good. It's just you're not seeing it. You're being deceived. The veils over the heart are tricking the person. Otherwise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَرُوا زَاهِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَبَاطِنَهُ. Because every zahir ithm, every zahir sin has a batin. Because it's the batin which causes the zahir sin. So for example, a person commits a lewd act with somebody, then there is a batin. What was that's the zahir. Okay, but what's the batin? It's lewdness, desire, perverse desires, sexual perversion in some way or another. So because these are within the heart, then these are acted upon. But with all these in the heart, if he doesn't act upon them, and he tries to put these down, and he tries to focus on prayer and patience, whatever, then he will be rewarded for them because they're passing through his heart. Go do this, go do that, go here, go there, do this, do that. And they're going through his heart. But what he's doing is he's controlling it, he's maintaining it, he's fighting it, he's praying salah, he's fasting, he's reciting the Qur'an, he's doing what he can do to keep it contained, so he will get ajr for that. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْسِبُونَ الْإِثْمَ سَيُجْزَوْنَ بِمَا كَانُوا يَقْتَرِفُونَ. Indeed, as for those who commit a sin, then they soon will be recompensed in full because of what they had committed. وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا مِمَّا لَمْ يُذْكَرِ اسْمُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وَإِنَّهُ لَفِسْقٌ. And do not eat from that which Allah's name has not been mentioned upon, for indeed that is fisq, that is open transgression. And these are things which individuals should avoid, Muslims should avoid. فَمَن يُرِدِ اللَّهُ أَن يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. And whomsoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to guide, then He opens his chest to Islam. You'll feel those people who are practicing, you'll feel those people upon the path, their hearts are open, they're not feeling stressed, they might be going through difficult times. Hard work, they might have very hard work, and it might be very challenging circumstances, but how they deal with that on a day-to-day basis, we can't deal with. So, and they're dealing with so much, and you're absolutely profound in what they're dealing with, and they have a very kind of happy-go-lucky attitude. They're very positive, they're very good, happy people to be around, and we find it very pleasant to be around them. We find it very useful to communicate with them. And then you see the other type of people, وَمَن يُرِدُ أَن يُضِلَّهُ يَجْعَلْ صَدْرَهُ ضَيِّقًا حَرَجًا كَأَنَّمَا يَصَّعَّدُ فِي السَّمَاءِ. And as for those individuals who Allah wants to deviate, then they find their chest constricted. You know, they can't even breathe. And the explanation is fantastic. كَأَنَّمَا يَسَّعَّدُ. It is as though this person is climbing, and as this person is climbing, the air is getting thinner. He's toiling, he's using his energy. So if one is using his energy, so he needs more oxygen to replenish his muscles and replenish his body. But on top of that, the oxygen supply is now scarce at the same time. So that compounds the problem, what he's going through. That compounds the issue. So it causes him even more difficulty, even more pain and harm. So you see, this person is a happy-go-lucky, pleasant, things happen, khair, shrug of the shoulders, gets on with life, moves on, doesn't hold things, doesn't allow things to burden him down, to make him negative. You see people where life deals, tricks to them, so they become very constricted, very evil, very dark, very negative, okay, always seeing negativity around them all the time because the negativity is within them. If you're looking through glasses which have got mud on them, then everybody's got mud on the face, okay? But what you fail to realize is the mud on the glasses which is causing everybody's got mud on the face. Not necessarily that there's mud on the faces of everybody. So it'd be better if we took the glasses off and cleaned the glasses, meaning reflected upon our own actions. Reflected upon our own behavior. That is far better. That will produce far better results. So when we're feeling down, when we're feeling constricted, when every single thing is disturbing us, when it's bothering us, when it's annoying us, when we're negative and all we can see is negativity around us, then press pause. Don't press pause on the video. Carry on watching, because if you press pause, I'll just be doing this. And that won't be very informative, would it? No. So don't press pause. I was talking about, not the video, I was talking about press pause when you're going through those thought patterns. And think, hold on a second here, is this my perception? Or is this happening around me? If it's your perception, then fix your perception. If it's happening around you, then how can you react to it? You can react to it in a negative way, or you can react to it in a positive way, so why not react to it in a positive way? And limit those people who are giving you that negativity, who are giving you this constriction, because they're also negative people, and the last thing you want is negative people to be around you when you yourself are kind of going through a little bit of a grey phase, or a phase where you've not really truly had your chest open with Islam. Best example is, think of the heart like a bird. This is, whenever I recite these verses or hear these verses, this image appears in my mind, and I see the heart as this little bird. And this bird wants to fly. Okay, it's one of those birds, like when you get young children and they just want to run. They just want to run. You don't know where you're going, they just want to run. And you don't want to constrict them. The backyard is just too small for them, or the front room is just too small for them, and you just really want to just take them out, take them to a wide open space and say, go run. Okay, just run. We should avoid the roads, and we're parents out, we avoid the roads, and don't go there, don't run too fast, you might slip, and watch out, there might be glass on the floor, there might be some poo-poo as well, and we say all these sorts of things, don't we? Yeah, we said just run. So we don't really give them as much openness as we choose to do so, but we are parents at the end of the day. So just run, and imagine the heart is this little bird inside, okay? And the rib cage, fantastically, is like a cage, and your heart is this bird. Now, if the cage is a tiny bit of space, a poor bird, it can't even open its wings. It's like a battery hen. And those of you who've seen battery hens, that's why you should avoid battery hen eggs. you should buy free range eggs. Because by buying battery hen eggs, you're supporting chickens and hens being mistreated, being put in a shoebox basically, with just enough space to stick their head out, and they're eating that, and that's it. They're in this little tiny space where they can't move. Would you really want to be in that? Okay, so your egg is 5 pence, 10 pence cheaper. So what? Is that all? Is that always your primary reason for buying something? Because it's cheaper? Shouldn't we as Muslims be looking at the better thing and think, hold on, I can pay that 5p extra, and at least I'm buying off a hen that's free to roam around, free to walk around, eats nice clean corn, wanders about, can go where it likes, not that it's boxed in this tiny little space. So, use your money in that way. Anyway, let's get back to our example of this little bird who can't even open its wings. It's feeling gloomy, it's finding it hard to breathe, it's claustrophobic. Okay, like when you get in a lift and, there's like a tiny lift and the lift stops as well. Goodness me, and the lights go out and you're stuck in this lift and you start feeling claustrophobic, you feel like the walls are coming in on you. And this is the same description that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives for the grave. That those people who've not led a good life, they fall in a grave and the grave becomes constricted. It becomes claustrophobic. It becomes in on the person until, as the hadith describe it, until the rib cages sort of go like that. So forget, that bit of space. This person's got no space at all. The actual rib cages are put together. Imagine that. A battery hen stays in its battery, I guess, for a few years and then it dies. That's it. It's escaped now. Even when a person's climbing a mountain, they feel it for a short time and then it's gone. But what about when a person's in his grave and that could last for 1,000 years, 5,000 years, 10,000 years? Would you really, even if a person's not claustrophobic, trust me, they will get claustrophobic. Whereas the other grave which is described opens up so wide, either direction. It's like, you're not in a grave anymore, you're like in an open field. Okay, free to stretch, free to run around, free to do what you choose, free to go where you wish to go. Again, this tiny bird, feeling constricted, you feel depressed, you feel negative, the world's on your shoulders, there's no outlook, there's no beam of sunlight, you're just getting down and down and down and just firing off at everybody. Compare that now to this bird in which there is no cage, and this bird flies where it wants. That is a description of somebody whose heart and chest has been opened to Islam. They feel like that. And the other is the person who isn't. So you know yourself. What type of heart do you have? Do you feel constricted? Do you feel negative? Do you feel this kind of moods? Well then, that's a sign that things haven't really opened up for you. Why? Because you haven't opened up. You have to take the first step, as Allah has mentioned many times. We see an address in a couple of places to both the jinn and the humans. Here, in fact, page 200. Ya ma'shar al-jinn wal-ins alam ya'tikum rusulun minkum yaqussuna alayka ayati wa yunzirunakum liqa'a yawmikum hadha قالوا شهدنا على أنفسنا وغرتهم الحياة الدنيا وشهدوا على أنفسهم أنهم كانوا كافرين. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O gathering of jinn and ins, O gathering of the jinn and the humans, did not messengers come to you, narrating to you my verses and warning you of the meeting of this day? And here it is. قالوا شهدنا, they say, we bear witness against ourselves. We will bear, God forbid, but we will bear witness against ourselves. وَغَرَّتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا, and the life of this world deceived them, and they bear witness against themselves that they denied and they chose a path in renegade to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is one thing we should obviously avoid. This is why we have to use this month. We have to use this month of Ramadan to move, get out of this harj that we're feeling, get out of this constraint, this difficulty, and open up to Islam and move with a positivity. وَجَعَلُوا لِلَّهِ مِمَّا ذَرَأَ مِنَ الْحَرْثِ وَالْأَنْعَامِ نَصِيبًا فَقَالُوا هَذَا لِلَّهِ بِزَعْمِهِمْ وَهَذَا لِشُرَكَائِنَا. And here is where the name for the surah comes. And they make for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by that which they have grown and and raised from the hars, from the crops, wal an'am, and the animals. And an'am is referring to particularly the animals which are consumed, a portion. And they said this is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by their claim, and this is for our partners that we ascribe with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is Allah was saying, what kind of nonsense is this? And that which is for their partners, well, that never reaches Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anyway. And that which is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that reaches to their partners. So none reaches to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Evil is that which they decide and judge. وَكَذَلِكَ زَيَّنَا, and likewise, زَيَّنَا لِكَثِيرٍ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ قَتْلَ أَوْلَادِهِمْ شُرَكَاؤُهُمْ لِيُرْدُوهُمْ وَلِيَلْبِسُوا عَلَيْهِمْ دِينَهُمْ. And likewise has been beautified for a lot, many from the mushrikeen was being beautified. He has beautified the killing of their children. Why? شُرَكَاؤُهُمْ. Their shuraka, the zayyana, the file here is there. Zayyana meaning has been beautified. Who has beautified this act? The shuraka have beautified this act. The deities that they're called. لِيُرْدُوهُمْ, so that it can ruin them, وَلِيَلْبِسُوا عَلَيْهِمْ دِينَهُمْ, and in order to deceive them in their religion. When they thought that we should bury our daughters, when a girl is born, we should bury her because she's a sign of the gods not being happy with you because they haven't bestowed a son upon you. She's a sign of weakness. She's a sign of this, that, and the other, whatever. So let's bury our daughter. So they used to rush out, and so when their wives were about to give birth, they would try to keep it quiet. Why? Because if nobody finds out, we can just say it was a miscarriage, because it could be a girl. But if it was a boy, then we can always announce it. So it was done very quietly, secretly. Only one woman or two women would be there. The child would be delivered. Quickly check if it's a male or female. If it's a male, they'd make a big hoo-ha, drums, announce it to everybody. Very proud. The father would walk with his chest out, his nose up in the air. That, oh, I've had a son. I've had a son. And sadly, we see that even within our communities nowadays. And then if it was a girl, goodness me, the father's face would go black. He would be in shock. The poor woman would be told, don't worry, next time. And sadly you hear that now as well. And then he would and the father would secretly go out in the middle of the night with this crying baby who's just breathing, holding on to her father, holding on to his thumb, and he would take her and he would move the earth, place her inside and bury her alive. This is what the gods were telling them. But what they failed to realize, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيُرْدُوهُمْ, so that they would ruin them. And what the men failed to realize is, hold on a second here, if we want our clan to live, if we want our clan to grow, because tribal was based upon the number of people in your, or power based rather, was based upon the number of people in your tribe, well, you're going to need a woman. If you end up now with 50 men and only 2 women, then you have a problem. The numbers don't add up. Because every time you're burying your daughter when she's born, then there's only going to be boys in the family. And there's only going to be boys in the tribe. And then you're going to have like 80, 100, 200 men and only 3, 4 women. So what happens? That generation dies out. There's no women in the generation, so there's no children. And no one can get married. There's no children. That's it. That tribe dies out. But this short-sightedness, which is put into their minds by their own false beliefs, that this is what the gods want from us, leads them into destruction. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not ask for them for that. What He asks for is the simple things. وَلَوْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ مَا فَعَلُوهُ فَذَرْهُمْ وَمَا يَفْتَرُونَ. And if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so willed, then they would not have done that. They would A, not have believed. They would A, have not created their idols. B, they would have not believed in them. C, they would have not killed their daughters or killed their own. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills that, He leaves that, because He gives that as their choice. Make ikhtiyar. They have to choose what particular act they want. وقالوا, and they say, هذه أنعام وحرث حجر. This is animals, and the harth is prohibited, forbidden. لا يطعمها إلا من نشاء بزعمهم. No one can eat this except who we will by their claim. وأنعام, and an'am, animals, حرمت ظهورها, whose backs have been made illegal, meaning they can't be used to carry burdens. وأنعام, and animals لا يذكرون اسم الله عليها, who have not had the name of Allah mentioned over them. افتراء عليه, which is a fabrication against Him. So يجزيهم بما كانوا يفترون, and soon they will be recompensed, in this case punished, because of what they used to fabricate. Then they would say, ما في بطون هذه الأنعام خالصة لذكورنا ومحرم على أزواجنا. And they would say, that which is in the wombs of these animals is only for our men folk. Okay? And they're illegal upon our women folk. Where do you get this from? وَإِن يَكُنْ مَيْتَةً فَهُمْ فِيهِ شُرَكَاء. And if the animal is born dead, then we can all eat from it. Where did you get this from? سيجزيهم وصفهم إنه حكيم عليم قد خسر الذين قتلوا أولادهم سفحا بغير علم وحرموا ما رزقهم الله افتراء على الله. And خسر have lost who? الذين, those who kill their own children out of stupidity without any knowledge. And this is what you see in our cultures. You see lots of culture doing silly, stupid things, and you ask them, where's this come from? And they're just doing it. They're just doing it. You know, we have, for example, somebody puts a musalla down. So they'll say, oh, okay, you know, when you finish praying, fold the musalla. So you think, oh, okay, why am I folding the musalla for? And they'll say, because shaitan might pray there. So you think, okay, so you go over to fold the musalla and think, hold on a second here. Isn't it a good thing that shaitan prays? Why am I stopping shaitan from praying? What kind of a person am I that's stopping shaitan from praying? What am I? I must be something worse than a shaitan. What's wrong with shaitan praying? And other things which came out just as superstitious statements, okay? Don't do this, do that, don't do this, make sure you do this like this, whatever, you know. We don't understand where these are coming from until we actually understand the deen better. قَدْ خَسِرَ الَّذِينَ, indeed has lost those individuals, kill their children out of stupidity without any knowledge, وَحَرَمُوا, and they make illegal مَا رَزَقَهُمُ اللَّهُ, which Allah SWT has made halal, iftira'an, fabricating against Allah SWT, saying Allah SWT said this. قَدْ ضَلُّوا وَمَا كَانُوا مُهْتَدِينَ, indeed they are deviated and they are not from the guided. And here's the particular part which is quite unique to this surah, which I'll mention to you, which again relates to its name, Suratul An'am. And we have Thamaniyata Azwaj. I wasn't sort of bending my neck or something because I imagined something going past. I was just losing the glare of my watch because the light is glaring onto it and I couldn't see the time. So I just wanted to know how much time I had. Felt I needed to explain that to you in case you thought, is he okay? Is you know, so you've got problems in his neck. Thamaniyata Azwaj, 8 pairs. Min ad-da'n ithnaini, from the sheep there's 2 pairs. Wa min al-ma'z ithnaini, and from the goat there's 2 pairs. Qul a'dhakarayni harrama am al-unthayayn amma ishtamalat alayhi arhamul unthayayn. Say, is it the two male of these 2 which is haram, or is it the 2 female of these 2? Amma ishtamalat alayhi arhamul, or that which is linked to the wombs of the females. Nabbi'uni, inform me, bi'ilmin, of knowledge, in kuntum sadiqin. Wa min al-ibil, and from the camel ithnaini there's 2. Obviously there's a pair, a male and a female camel, a he camel and a she camel, or is it just a camel and a she camel? Whatever. Wa min al-ibil ithnain, wa min al-baqar ithnain, and from the cow there's 2. Qul a'dhakarayni, is it the 2 masculine ones from the cow and the, which would be the bull obviously, and the camel, which are illegal, haram? Amil unthayaini, or is it the 2 female of the species of the 2, or is it the female of the 2 species which is haram? Amma ishtamalat alayhi arhamul unthayain, or is it that which is linked to the wombs of the 2 female? Am kuntum shuhada idh wassakum Allah bihadha, or were you there as witnesses when Allah SWT ordered all this? Because you're making this claim. You're making these ridiculous claims that when it's like this, then with the males we can eat, the female we can't eat. When it's this, then our males can't eat it and our females can't eat it. Where are you making this up for? Any rules which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, any rule rather which the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is bringing, he's bringing you evidence. He's bringing you evidence that is contained within this book. And he's proving to you that this is a revealed text, because he's also bringing you information which cannot have been known to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Impossible. Matters which happened in the past, where he wasn't present obviously, matters which was happening now, which is from the unseen, which Allah SWT was informing him, and matters which were going to happen in the future, which he wasn't obviously in the future. So because he's explaining to you about all these matters, then that's clearly telling you that Allah SWT is revealing to him. Then if he tells you something which then turns out to be truth, and he's truthful in many other areas, and he was a truthful person before he claimed prophethood, then you have to accept the rest of it if you don't have any evidence to consider some part of it as false and some part of it as true. If everything that the Messenger ﷺ has spoken and which can be proven to be true is true, then you have to, unless you have some other piece of evidence, you have to accept those things which can't be proven to be true to also be true. And it's only because it can't be proven that you're saying it's not true, because that's the only reason. But those which can be proven have all been proven to be true. I hope that made some sense. So here they're making all these things up. Fabrication is against Allah, using Allah's name in all of this. And sadly, sometimes we do that. We use Allah's name, or Allah said this, and we've got no idea what Allah said. We don't even know the Qur'an. We don't even know if the verse exists or doesn't exist. We don't even know if the hadith exists or not, whether the hadith is sound, whether it can be used for this various ahkam, whether that actually event took place or not, whether the Prophet said those things. We just say it in such a nonchalant, easygoing sort of way, like we're just talking about somebody's next door neighbor. We have to be very careful when we speak about. We see the Sahaba, for example, when they were speaking a hadith, that they would shiver. We see so many narrations, shiver, pass out, because of the gravity of what they were saying when they said, Qala Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Well, if this was the gravity in which people are facing, and the Sahaba were facing, and others were facing, when they say Qala Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, then what about Qala Allah Subhanahu Wa Ta'ala? As likewise, or Allah says this, or Allah says that. We have to be very, very careful. قُلْ لَا أَجِدُ فِي مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَيَّ مُحَرَّمًا عَلَى طَائِمٍ يطعمه إلا أن يكون ميتة أو دما مسفوحا أو لحم خنزير فإنه رجس أو فسقا أحل لغير الله. And say, addressing the Messenger that I do not find in what has been revealed to me anything which is illegal upon the person who's eating, in order what he can eat from, except that it is carrion, meaning an animal. Obviously we all eat dead meat. Sometimes when I say dead meat, people say to me, okay, so that means you can't eat a live animal? Which one of us eats a live animal? And you think, that's a fair point. None of us eat a live animal. So we all eat dead animals. So when we say maytatan, yes, it's a dead animal, but it means in this case carrion, meaning an animal which hasn't been killed through slaughter. Okay? So yes, we all eat dead animals. So Muslims don't eat live animals, just in case you were freaking out thinking, hey, how can you not? It says here that you can't eat dead animals. What's going on? Do Muslims eat live animals? No, they don't. Muslims also eat dead animals. Surprise, surprise, newsflash. But they have to be slaughtered through a particular method by a particular individual, and similar to the shakita method amongst within Judaism. فَمَنِ اضْطُرَّ, if somebody is compelled, غَيْرَ بَاغِي وَلَا عَادٍ, who is not craving, not desiring it, and nor transgressing, فَإِنَّ رَبَّكَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ, then indeed your Rabb is Ghafur and he is Rahim. And we've already mentioned that in terms of context and how that plays a part with respect to what is permissible and what is not permissible. And there's more verses here which talk about what is legal and what is illegal with respect to consumption. Challenging again. The Quran is challenging the position of the mushrikeen. It is challenging the position of the Jews. It is challenging the position of the Christians. And saying to them, on what basis are you saying this is legal and illegal? You're saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me he hasn't said this. So why don't you rectify your ways? Why don't you correct what you're claiming and follow this true path? Qul, say, ta'alu, come, atlu ma harama rabbukum. I will recite to you what your Rabb has made haram. Alaykum, upon you, Allah tushriku, and that you don't ascribe partners with him, shay'an, wa bil walidayni ihsana, and that you are good to your parents, wa la taqtulu awladakum min imlaq, and don't kill your children due to poverty, because the way they looked at is a boy at the age of 7, 8, 9, he can go out onto the fields, he can even run a shop, he can be out, he's a public person, he can make an earning. But a woman, she's just going to consume rather than become a provider. So as a result, if we've got 6 consumers and only 2 providers, that will prove difficult upon us. So therefore they would have this rationale as well to go about and kill their daughters just as they were born, so that they would not have, it'd be one less consumer and they would have to worry about. And therefore this is the steps they took. Why? This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wala taqtulu awladakum, don't kill your children min imlaq, due to poverty. Nahnu narzuqukum, we will feed them, and you. And none of us have ever gone hungry because of the fact that we've got too many children. Obviously a person should, this is about family planning, and maybe not appropriate for me to go into too much detail because of the wide audience that will be hopefully watching these tafsir sessions, or these tarjama sessions, or these discussions with respect to the Quran. with respect to the meaning of the Quran. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but when a person has children, he shouldn't fear that my children are now going to be a drain on me. Well, in this country, we're very fortunate, alhamdulillah, this country and its systems that we have. We should be very privileged and honored to be citizens of this country, because it provides support to us. It's a country which is well managed, well looked after. It provides good support for its citizens, and with that respect, it can make sure that these children are looked after, whether it's child benefit, and even then working families tax credit and all the other things which come with it, to provide sufficient support for children. But this was a day when the state wasn't really supporting. When obviously Baytul Mal was set up in Medina, then the state would support, but obviously the father for the orphan, but it was the father's responsibility to provide for his children. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا زَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. And don't come close to fawahish. Fawahish is anything which would be lewd, to the common person, to common sense, would be considered as inappropriate, as wrong, as evil, and vile, things like that. That which is apparent from it and that which is hidden. And we've had this similar verse mentioned earlier as well, that there are two elements to sins. There are two elements to bad acts. One is the driving force, you could call it, the motivation, which starts inside of us. And then there is the manifestation and the action, the resultant action, because of this mindset. When we're angry people, if we're always angry and we always lash out, then we're going to just be swearing all the time and hitting all the time and aggressive all the time, because of the state of mind that we are in. I said state of mind and I'm sort of pointing towards the heart, but you get the idea. Okay, so in that respect, there is a batin and a zahir at all times. So when you're doing something zahiri, then the thing to do is get to the root of it. So if you're lying, then there's something else which is causing you to lie, because the lying is a manifestation of the sin. What is the batin of the sin? Because if you uproot the batin of the sin, then the manifestation will disappear. If you don't throw a stone in a puddle, then you're not going to get ripples. So let's not focus on the ripples and say, oh, how do I get rid of these ripples? What do I do? Do I put my hand over the pond? Do I put some leaves on the pond? Do I do this? And we're focusing on the manifestation. What we should be doing is focusing on the batini of it. What's causing this? Because something is causing. Now, if we stop throwing pebbles in the puddle, then that's it. The zahir of it will disappear. Don't get also confused that then why is the judicial system within the Sharia focus so much on the apparent? Because that's a legal system. That's not a system that we religiously need to contact a scholar and be under the constant advice and support of a scholar. This is a legal system to prevent harms upon people and to apply justice, so that if somebody's robbed, then their justice is given to them. That's something else. For rehabilitation purposes, so that's a crime. So let's separate the two. One is a crime, and then one is the rehabilitation of the perpetrator. What caused this person to commit the crime? So the crime is dealt with as a separate entity, because that's an injustice, and the perpetrator's rehabilitation, because he himself or she herself is also caught up in this, because they've allowed their nafs, they've allowed their batin to become dirty, which has allowed them now to behave in this way. We have about 15 minutes or so, and we're sort of coming to the end of this surah. So I will just use this opportunity just to sort of get to the end of the surah. وَهُوَ الَّذِي جَعَلَكُمْ خَلَائِفَ الْأَرْضِ وَرَفَعَ بَعْضَكُمْ فَوْقَ بَعْضٍ دَرَجَاتٍ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ فِي مَا آتَاكُمْ إِنَّ رَبَّكَ سَرِيعُ الْعِقَابِ وَإِنَّهُ لَغَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. And he is that being that has made you as khalaif, as deputants, as vice-regents, as individuals to settle affairs upon the earth. And he has raised some of you over others by ranks in order to test you in that which he gives you, because the one who is not being given enough is being tested to see if he remains patient, or is he going to allow his batin, his inner self, to now steal and say, I'm going to settle the score. It's unfair that I've not got what he's got, so I'm going to take it. Okay, this is his batin's greed. This is his batin's lack of contentment. This is his batin lack of acceptance of Allah's decree. So because of these three batini sins, he commits a zahiri sin because of that. But likewise, the chap who's better off, he's also being tested. A, to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. B, to help the poor. And C, the batin of his sin is arrogance. Oh, look at what I've got. Look how powerful I am. Look how much money I have. Look how intelligent I am. To look down upon other people now. To treat them badly. To abuse them. So this is the batin sin, which then becomes zahir. So we've seen that thread throughout today's Ramadan recital reminders, and we now move to Surah Al-A'raf, and we're halfway through the para, and we have just over 10 minutes. So again, we're going to go for that approach where I'm going to pick bits up. We're on page 209 for those who are following on the standard 13 line Mushaf, which is the sort of South Asian type of print rather than the Arab print. Where can we pick up from? We remember, I hope you can, days ago now, coming to probably Ramadan Recital number 1, Ramadan Recital reminder number 1, in which we talked about Adam alayhi salatu wasalam's creation and how what was asked, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَاكُمْ ثُمَّ صَوَّرْنَاكُمْ ثُمَّ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ لَمْ يَكُنْ مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ. And remember, and indeed we created you, and then we formed you, and then we said to the angels, prostrate to Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, so they prostrated except Iblis. He was not from those who prostrated. قَالْ مَا مَنَعَكَ أَلَّا تَسْجُدَ إِذْ أَمَرْتُكَ. He said, Yani Allah, what prevented you, O Shaitan, that you did not prostrate when I ordered you? Qal, he responded, Ana khayrun minhum, I'm superior to him. So the batini sin was arrogance. How was it manifested? Refusal to prostrate. Khalaqtani min nar, you created me from fire. Wa khalaqtahu min teen, and you created him from clay. Qal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Fahbit minha, descend from here. فَمَا يَكُونَ لَكَ أَن تَتَكَبَّرَ فِيهَا. And you have no right that you act arrogant in there. فَخْرُجْ, get out of here. إِنَّكَ مِنَ الصَّاغِرِينَ, indeed you are from the disgraced ones. Qal, Shaitan responded, he said, Anzirni ila yawmi yub'athun, leave me until a day in which I am resurrected. Qal, in which they are resurrected. Qal, Allah SWT responded, Innaka minal munzareen, you are from those individuals who will be given respite. And this is the reason why he was Arif Billah, know the time as to ask for respite, even though Allah SWT was in his jalal, he was in wrath. Qala fabima aghwaytani قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراطك المستقيم ثم لآتينهم من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم وعن أيمانهم وعن شمائلهم ولا تجد أكثرهم شاكرين. So Shaitan made a promise. He said, Ya Allah, I will send you sent me, or you allowed me to go astray, and because of that, now what I'm going to do, لأقعدن لهم, I will sit for them, these humans of yours, that I have lost this great station, this great maqam, this great status that I had. I lost it because of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. Well, I'm not going to let this lie, and I'm not going to let his progeny survive. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for them on your straight path, and what I will do is I will come to them, and I will come to them from in front of them, and I will come to them from behind them, and I will come to them from their right, and I will come to them from their left, and I will hit them so hard they will not know what's hit them. I will make their heads spin. I will put opportunities in front of them so they commit sin. I will open doors for them. I will have callers on the door calling them towards these sins, and they will come like sheep. And وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرَهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ, and you will not find the majority of them to be grateful as well. So many will sin and many will show ingratitude towards you. أُخْرُجْ مِنْهَا مَذْءُومًا مَدْحُورًا, leave, your exile from here, Shaitan, both disgraced and expelled. لَمَنْ تَبِعَكَ مِنْهُمْ لَأَمْلَعَنَّ جَهَنَّمَ مِنْكُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. And listen, whomsoever from them, from the humans, choose to follow you, even though you are their open enemy, even though you have tried to disgrace their father, even though you are actually saying that you're going to attack them, لَأَمْلَعَنَّ, this is frightening to hear, I will indeed, without any shadow of doubt, fill Jahannam minkum ajmain, from all of you. then addressed to Adam alayhi salam, وَيَا آدَمُ اسْكُنْ أَنْتَ وَزَوْجُكَ الْجَنَّةَ فَكُلَا مِنْ حَيْثُ شِئْتُمَا وَلَا تَقْرَبَا هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةَ فَتَكُونَا مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. O Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, O Adam, you and your wife can stay here in Jannah and eat from wherever you choose to eat. However, do not come close to this particular plant, this particular tree. فَتَكُونَا, if you were to do so, you would be from those individuals who are oppressed. فَوَسْوَسَ لَهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ, so shaitan did waswasa, whispered to them, لِيُبْدِيَ لَهُمْ مَا وُورِيَ, to make apparent to them what they had concealed, مِنْ سَوْآتِهِمَا, from their private parts. وَقَالَ مَا نَهَاكُمَا رَبُّكُمَا عَنْ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ إِلَّا أَنْ تَكُونَ مَلَكَيْنِ أَوْ تَكُونَ مِنَ الْخَالِدِينَ. Again, he then whispered something else, and he said that your Rabb has not prohibited you two from coming to this plant or this tree, except if you were to eat from it, you'll become angels, or you become immortals. وَقَاسَمَهُمَا إِنِّي لَكُمَا لَمِنَ النَّاصِحِينَ. And he took a qasam, he took an oath, and he said, I am a good advisor for you. فَدَلَّاهُمَا بِغُرُورٍ. And he then deceived them. فَلَمَّا ذَاقَ الشَّجَرَةَ. So when they went and ate from this tree, ate from this plant, بَدَتْ لَهُمَا سَوْآتُهُمَا, became apparent for them their private parts which they had concealed. وَطَفِقَا يَخْصِفَانِ. So they started to cover themselves with the warakil Jannah, with the leaves of Jannah. وَنَادَاهُمَا رَبُّهُمَا. And their Rabb called upon them, أَلَمْ أَنْهَاكُمَا أَنْ تِلْكُمَا الشَّجَرَةِ. Did I not prohibit you from this plant, from this tree? وَأَقُلْ لَكُمَا إِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَكُمَا عَدُوٌّ مُبِينٌ. And did I not say to you that shaitan for you is an open enemy? قَالَ رَبَّنَا زَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا. Oh Allah, it was us who oppressed ourselves. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that shaitan is our open enemy. Are we going to take heed? Are we going to change our ways? You really think all those ideas of doing those bad things comes from you? Those thoughts which appear in your mind? How do you think they appear in your mind? The shaitan which is with you since the day you were born, who is there to as one job to bring about your ultimate destruction. That's his only job, to send you, because his job from the king shaitan, from the leader of the shaitans, is each one has been assigned to a human, and his job is to send you to your destruction. So when those bad thoughts come into your head and he's telling you to do this and telling you to do that, what are you supposed to do? Act upon them? No. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Why? Say that a few times and you watch, the bad thoughts will disappear. So that clearly shows the bad thoughts which are coming from shaitan and is bringing about the destruction. So then Allah SWT sends them down to the earth, like we heard in first para, and to stay there for a short while, in order that eventually قَالَ فِيهَا تَحْيَوْنَ, you live there, وَفِيهَا تَمُوتُونَ, then you will die on this earth, وَمِنْهَا تُخْرَجُونَ, and then from this earth you will be taken back out again, in order for you obviously to become alive, and you will be then questioned. يا بني آدم لا يفتننكم الشيطان كما أخرج أبويكم من الجنة ينزع عنهما لباسهما ليريهما سوآتهما. O Bani Adam, O children of Adam now, you saw what your father went through. You saw what your mother went through because of listening to shaitan. Don't let shaitan fool you now. Don't let him لا يفتننكم, put you into fitna. This is the word fitna, where fitna is something which causes a person to commit sin. So it's an environment, it's a situation, it's an act where a person is now more likely to commit sin. So don't let shaitan build that scenario around you. Like the way by his cause he got your parents out of Jannah, stripping them of their clothes and showing them their private parts. إِنَّهُ يَرَاكُمْ هُوَ وَقَبِيلُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا تَرَوْنَهُمْ. Indeed, he sees you and his qabil can see you in a way that you cannot see them. إِنَّ جَعَلْنَا الشَّيَاطِينَ أَوْلِيَاءَ لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. And we have made shayateen the friends of those people who do not accept Allah's path. وَإِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً قَالُوا وَجَدْنَا عَلَيْهَا آبَاءَنَا وَاللَّهُ أَمَرَنَا بِهَا. And when they do a vile act, then they say, oh well, our forefathers used to do this, and Allah SWT ordered our forefathers to do this. قُلْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَأْمُرُ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ. Say to them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would never order fahsha. أَتَقُولُونَ عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Are you making a statement against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which you have no knowledge of whatsoever? So we have 5 minutes or so. So let me just sort of pick up and kind of reach the last page, because I don't really have much more time to discuss. Maybe I can pick one or two ayats along the way. But you can see, well, let's mention it because it's A'raf, and on A'raf, obviously, there's we'll see وَنَادَ أَصْحَابُ الْجَنَّةِ أَصْحَابَ النَّارِ أَنْ قَدْ وَجَدْنَا مَا وَعَدَنَا رَبُّنَا حَقًّا فَهَلْ وَجَدْتُمْ مَا وَعَدَ رَبُّكُمْ حَقًّا قَالُوا نَعَمْ. The people of Jannat will call on the people of the fire. So that shows that the people in Jannat and the people of fire are able to communicate with each other in some way. Allah knows best. And they will say, oh, we found what our Rabb promised us here to be truth. We're in the gardens, we're enjoying life, everything is halal, we're having the right time, we're having the right buzz. Okay? Did you find what Allah warned you of? Did you find that to be true? They respond, naam, so they can hear each other. Okay? فَأَذَّنَ مُؤَذِّنٌ, so that muadhin will then call out بَيْنَهُمْ that لَعْنَةُ اللَّهِ عَلَى الظَّالِمِينَ الَّذِينَ يَصُدُّونَ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَيَبْغُونَهَا عِوَجًا وَهُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ كَافِرُونَ وَبَيْنَهُمَا حِجَابٌ, and there is some kind of barrier. Now this barrier must be a barrier which prevents people from traveling over from one to the other. وَعَلَى الْأَعْرَافِ, and upon the heights, which this surah takes its name, there are rijal, people, يَعْرِفُونَ كُلًّا, you can recognize them by their marks. وَنَادَوْا أَصْحَابَ الْجَنَّةِ, and they call upon the people of Jannah, and they say سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ لَمْ يَدْخُلُوا, they have not yet got into Jannah, وَهُمْ يَطْمَعُونَ, but they have a desire and they hope to do so. وَإِذَا صُرِفَتْ أَبْصَارُهُمْ تِلْقَاءَ أَصْحَابِ النَّارِ, but when they look towards the people in Jahannam, قالوا, they say, رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا مَعَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ, don't place us in that. So you can see that Jahannam can be something that can be seen into. Okay, Jannat can be something that can be seen into. This is most likely the increase of pain that people in Jahannam will feel, because it's like, it's like when you sort of stood outside the window. The way I'm saying it, you might think that I've experienced this, and I haven't. Okay, you stood outside the window in the cold, and you're looking through the window, and there's a family together, and they're all happy and laughing, and they're eating food, and they're relaxing, and his kids are playing games, and it sounds like fun, and you sort of like, you didn't get an invite to the party or something, you sort of stood outside, a poor person there. In the same way, you see, and that makes, and you're kind of looking at where you are, and you're sat in it's snowing, and you're outside in the cold, you don't have family, you're all alone, you've got no one to go back to when you go home. So that adds to your depression. Ignorance is bliss. If you didn't know that there are people out there enjoying life, you think, it doesn't matter, maybe everybody's sat home all alone on Eid day or something like that. Because you see other people enjoying life, you think, goodness me, I'm missing out. So the people in Jahannam will can see this. So they realize even more that they're missing out on what they're doing. But we're not there yet. We're here. We can make changes. Springboard, remember? This is to get our momentum. ونادى أصحاب الأعراف رجالا يعرفونهم بسيماهم قالوا ما أغنى عنكم جمعكم وما كنتم تستكبرون هؤلاء الذين أقسمتم لا ينالهم الله برحمة ادخلوا الجنة لا خوف عليكم ولا أنتم تحزنون. So they'll then find their way into Jannah. ونادى أصحاب النار أصحاب الجنة, and then the people of Jahannam will call on the people of Jannah, and أفيدوا علينا من الماء, pour some of that water over us. Pour some of that Jannat water over us. Oh, mimma, give us some of that. Razaqakumullah, which Allah has given you to you in sustenance in Jannah. Qalu, they say, Inna Allah haramahuma ala al-kafirin. Allah has now made this haram upon those people who disobey. When Allah made things haram upon you in the world, why didn't you avoid them? Then now which Allah is giving to you, it would have been halal for you. But you chose to break those rules, those things which Allah made haram upon you, you transgressed. You went and did those things. Now Allah is going to make something haram upon you, and you're not going to have any chance of transgressing, because there's no choice in Jannah or Jahannam. You're restricted. الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ, those who took their religion lahwa, as a plaything, وَلَعِبًا, something to joke and ridicule over and mock. وَغَرَّتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا, and the life of this world deceived them. They were chasing big cars, big houses, fancy lifestyle, positions in community, money, qualifications, all these kind of izzat, as we call it. They were chasing all these things. غَرَّت, but the dunya was just deceiving them. The dunya was deceiving them and preoccupying them on things which had no value whatsoever, because when they breathed their last, the only thing that they cared for was, what good deeds have I got left now? فَالْيَوْمَ, so on this day, نَنْسَاهُمْ, we will forget them, كَمَا نَسُوا, like the way they forgot لِقَاءَ يَوْمِهِمْ هَذَا, like the way they forgot the meeting of this day. They're going to be forgotten. وَمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَجْحَدُونَ. So we now, obviously, very much in the last few minutes, so I will, yes, genuinely pick up pace And really, if something's going to jump out at me, I'm going to get across to the last page, which I have done. And as habit and practice, let's just finish off. وإن ولا تقعدوا بكل صراط توعدون وتصدون عن سبيل الله من آمن به وتبغونها عوجا. And don't sit on every pathway or street, and what you do is you sort of calling and stopping people from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and those and man amana bihi, and those who believe in it, وتبغون, and you're finding faults in it. And you see people like that, they don't want to practice religion themselves, so what they do is they try to find fault in religion. Say, yeah, I get all of deen, but why does a woman do this and a man does that? Why does this happen? And they start, and you at that time you're on a pretty high, yes, I'm going to be all practicing and stuff, and then suddenly you start scratching your head and thinking, yeah, fair point, I didn't really see it like that. So what they're doing is they're finding faults in it. They're trying to look for contradictions. وَاذْكُرُوا إِذْ كُنْتُمْ قَلِيلًا فَكَثَّرَكُمْ. And remember when you were a few, and then Allah SWT made you more, you became more abundant. وَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. And also see how the end result is for those who cause corruption. وَإِنْ كَانَ طَائِفَةٌ مِنْكُمْ آمَنُوا بِالَّذِي أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ وَطَائِفَةٌ لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا فَاصْبِرُوا حَتَّى يَحْكُمَ اللَّهُ بَيْنَنَا وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. And if there is a group, minkum, from amongst you, who believe in that which was ursiltu, I have been sent with, or you have been sent with, وَطَائِفَةٌ ursiltu bihi, that I have sent you with, and a group that lam yu'minu, who don't believe, fasbiru, then be patient, hatta yahkum Allah, until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges and decides between you, wa huwa khairul hakimin, and he is the best of judges. And with that, we have now reached the end of the 8th para. Maybe just gone over an hour slightly, and for the next session tomorrow, inshallah, we will carry on with قال الملأ الذين استكبروا من قومه لنخرجنك يا شعيب والذين آمنوا معك من قريتنا أو لتعودن في ملتنا, where Shu'aib alayhi salatu wasalam was challenged for his beliefs and how his people turned against him. So join me again for another Ramadan recital reminder of our series Syncing with the Quran tomorrow, inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
ليلة القدر التي نزلت بها آيات تذكرة لذي الألباب، يا صائما للشهر محتسبا له بشراك مغفرة بغير حساب، بشراك مغفرة بغير حساب.